Good morning, all. Jeff from Queen Creek.
Jeff, how are you, sir?
I'm well, thank you.
We're going to start with a picture. Andrea, do you want to do that now? All right, so all members who are present, will you join up front for a picture?
Everybody's getting up and leaving.
Ladies in the chairs. Thank you very much. Oh, good. That's great. I'm so glad. We're gonna have to unmute though. You're the, don't let me stop you. Look. No, yeah, we'll have her in the center. Yeah, you're in the center. Right here. There we go. She never gets to stand on the back either. She always did. In the building. No. Oh, okay. Before Jeff was John Lewis, he's like 6'3". Mayor Woods is in the building. Oh, Mayor Woods is in the building. Oh, I bet let's grab another chair real fast. She's like, Jen, we're going to move you down here. We have one more mayor. Gave Eric my so I only had it on with my Gilbert days. I'm always in purple. Is it yours? Pretty much. The stripes on my car. I did. The stripes on my car. It's her signature. It's good marketing. Oh, right there. Right. Hey, we see the socks? Oh, I like the socks. Yeah. I appreciate how much everybody's into this.
Somebody just joined Zoom meeting with a 602 area code. Who is this?
That would be Mayor Riggs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your name again?
Riggs, R-I-G-G-S.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Riggs.
You're welcome.
Yes. I know. I think that was pretty lit though. I didn't know.
Oh. Gilbert is the largest city like that. We're the fifth largest city in the States. Like, if we get Chandler's heels. Do you want to be bigger? We will be bigger. They're going to stop growing. We're going to. But then everybody else came past us.
Hey, how are you? It's good to see you all.
Nice to see you. Okay.
For those in the Zoom meeting, we do have a quorum, so we'll start shortly. Thank you.
I'm always asking.
Okay, everyone's gonna look right up here at me. And 1, 2, 3. And one more time. 1, 2, 3. And one last one. Perfect. Thank you.
Yay, thank you. Thank you very much. Well played, everyone. Well played, everyone.
How are you?
Good.
How are you doing?
Good. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum, we believe, so we're good to go.
Eric, this is Craig. Did we still want to do the Zoom screenshot for purple?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay, if you are in purple, please unmute your camera and I will take a shot here in just a second.
Okay, people unmute your cameras who are on Zoom. We get a quick group shot. Thank you.
That's what they do.
I'd like to call the MAG Regional Council meeting of October 26th, 2022 to order. Good morning, members of the MAG Regional Council. This meeting is now called to order. For those around the table, please turn on your microphone when speaking. For those participating via Zoom, please state your name when making a comment or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items under today's agenda or on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment at today's meeting, please fill out a white request to speak card located on the information table in the hallway and give it to MAG staff. Don't forget, if you parked in the garage, parking validators are available on the information table in the hallway. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. Andrea, would you mind doing roll call, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Regional Council, I'll go down the list of members alphabetically. Please unmute and indicate if you are present. For Mayor Bien Wilner, Vice Mayor Anna Thomason.
Here.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Brown.
I'm here.
Thank you. President Burnett. Mayor Carlott. Ms. Daniels. Here. Thank you. Mayor Dickey.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Gallego. Mayor Giles. Supervisor Goodman. Supervisor Goodman. Mayor Hall.
No, you get called
later. Mayor Harkey.
Here.
Thank you. President Javier. Mayor Amrocio.
Here.
Thank you. Supervisor Hickman.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor LaVault.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Governor Lewis. Mr. Mack. Mayor Molina.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Osborne.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Ortega. Mayor Pereira.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Les Peterson.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Pizzillo. Mayor Riggs.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Rodriguez.
Present.
Thank you. Mayor Schoaf. Vice Mayor David Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Nancy Smith. Mayor Walter. Mayor Wires. Chair Weiss.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Woods.
I think Mayor Wood stepped out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate that. Would you all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Thank you all. Our next item is call to the audience. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for call to the audience agenda items unless the committee requests an exception to this limit. I received one card, Ms. Barker.
Good afternoon. My name's Diane Barker. I'm happy to be here in front of you, Mayor Chairman Weiss and mayors. I came by transit and my pass was validated, so I got a reimbursal. And when I got the ticket, I thought, you know what? The life of a ticket. And, I was thinking, that's a story that I can really tell because, where a ticket will take you. And without a ticket, sometimes you don't get a ride. So I thought, I found this brochure, maybe you've seen it, Meg put it out. It's called Regional Activity Destination. I had just first seen it and I thought, I suggest that maybe all the cities might put this on their website because some of you, and I can remember, this was in a smaller town that I grew up in, but we used to say, well, there's nothing to do, Mom. But MAG has picked up on that. Maybe you've heard your kids when you say, hey, get out, get off the couch, get out, do something, move, because this regional activity, and I haven't tried it, but it does group together the destinations in the valley, our parks. I love going to the zoo, and I do go on the zoo bus, the Van Buren #3 bus. And people I learned this years ago, they want to know where these buses go. And, to put a pet name like the zoo bus, that adds not only friendliness, but it tells you where it's going to go. And so we have this correlated, I understand, into the bike routes and the public transit routes. I'm going to look it up. And so, I suggest, again, it's called RAD, azmag.gov. And these brochures are right over here on the right. Now, about the life of a bus pass is that I've found out in the past year, I use a folding bicycle and I'm able to take it on the light rail. And there are transit security that come around to check if you have a pass. Now, if you don't have you have a pass that's not validated, then they don't like that. And they, want to maybe charge you a fine, but instead they take a black marker and mark it out that it's gone for the day. However, if somebody wants to, you can go into the bus and just slide it through. So anyway, or they also can be wiped off and used again. Between the different kiosks not working, we should really look to see, how we are and how much we get out of these transit collector money vendor machines. Thank you.
Andrew, were there any written cards or anybody online besides Ms. Barker?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've received no written comments for this agenda item or any item on today's agenda.
Thank you, ma'am. Item number 4 is Executive Director's Report. Eric?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the Regional Council, go to the next slide. So last Friday, we lost one of our historic regional leaders of the Valley, Keno Hawker, former mayor of Mesa. Keno is a real key player in the development of the Prop 400 plan. He chaired the Regional Council Subcommittee on Transportation, which was the precursor to the Transportation Policy Committee. He also served as council chair for a couple of years and the vice chair of our Transportation Policy Committee in 2006. He was a strong advocate for transportation and for regional cooperation, so we certainly will miss him. We go to the next slide. So last week at the Arizona Intelligent Transportation Systems Conference, MAG, over 500 people attended. MAG was awarded 3 awards during that: Best ITS Implementation for Automated Signal Timing Plan, Best ITS Planning Project, which was the Autonomous Vehicle Shuttle Pilot Project out in Peoria, and the Best Use of an ITS Industry Product or Service, Testing of Non-Intrusive Technologies for Counting Pedestrians and Bicyclists. So all 3 of these are part of our emerging technology program. So very nice that we were recognized for that. We go to the next slide. Some pictures from that event. Go to the next slide. We are, Anna Bob Bagley in our Regional Analytics Division have rolled out a Housing Data Explorer website. If you recall back in August, Anna Bob did a very comprehensive presentation on housing. That's now been all put up on the website, and that data will be kept updated on a regular basis too. So go check it out. The 4 areas that are handled in the website: construction development activity, residential sales, apartment rents, and then evictions and cost burden data also. So you'll find that very interesting. Go to the next slide. Then yesterday, we participated in the ribbon cutting ceremony for the El Mirage Road interchange on Northern Parkway. The Northern Parkway project is our largest arterial life cycle project funded in Prop 400. So we put well over $200 million of regional funding in this project. It's really making a difference in that part of the region too. So very nice to see that project completed. More to come on that too. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Eric, thank you for that. Item number 5 is consent agenda. Items 5A through 5G. Does any member of the committee have questions, request a separate presentation? Hearing and seeing none. Prior to approval of the consent agenda, do we have any members of the public who wish to comment on items on consent? Ms. Barker?
Thank you again, Chairman Lees. I want to thank Andrea with the minutes. I mean, she does more detail than I could even do on my own comments. So, you know, that's really good. I think they can tell you what happened at your last meeting. I was able to make the deadline Friday to make my air quality conformity messages. And amongst those, I even said, which is part of the agenda for 5 consent, that MAG has upped its public participation. I've read those inputs, and you know, some of them are scalding. At least they didn't get super nasty. You know, they're not happy with some of the components of the transportation system. And I think you'll hear, you know, more of that. And it should be taken seriously so that we can really get to the destination, which I believe all of you want, where we have a comprehensive transportation system that serves people in mobility and cuts down on the air, the bad air, because we do, you know, I'm not here to preach about this, but I go out daily and I try to use public transit. And when I'm around there, it's not, you know, I have some time waiting, you know, for my transfer sometimes. Listen, I clean up the stop. We have litter out there that's unnecessary. It leads to degradation of our environment and our minds. As soon as one person throws down, then the other one thinks that they can too. I see that Mr. Lunsford's here. When I got to meet Jack, he's still handsome. It was in 1988, and he led a, and is he blushing? Yeah. Yeah, right. He led an air quality for the Valley Citizens League. And we came up with, actually, we were finding pollutants that aren't even measured, such as formaldehyde. And I don't know what the government EPA has cracked down on that. But, you know, I said to Jack, I says, here you are. I says, it doesn't matter the time. Is we still have the idea that we know we have pollution and we need to all be considering our own personal input to the problem. So the bottom line is you're either part of the problem or you're part of the solution. Good luck.
Thank you, ma'am. Andrea, any other comments from online?
No, no other written comments were submitted for this item.
Is there a motion to approve consent agenda items 5A through 5G?
I'll make that motion. Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Les Peterson, a second from Mayor Hartke. In the room, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Andrew, will you do online, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will go down the list of members participating virtually. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Vice Mayor Brown.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Mayor Hermosillo.
Aye.
Thank you. Supervisor Hickman.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor LaVault.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Molina.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pereira.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Riggs. Mayor Rodriguez.
Aye.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Walter.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson. Can I check back with Mayor Riggs?
I muted myself. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson and Mayor Riggs. Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Eric, item number 6, please.
Microphone on. Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a presentation today. Kelly Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Regional Council for your time today. The purpose of this presentation is to share information and activities related to October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and to invite your participation in activities and to offer a resolution for your recommendation of approval. Joining me today is Anita Norton, Council Member for El Mirage and Chair of MAG's Regional Domestic Violence Council. She's been a great advocate for this work, and I'm excited for you to hear from her today. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much for inviting us. Domestic violence is a public health issue that touches each of our communities. It does not discriminate by age, race, or social status. It is often underreported, and the cycle is repeated as children are raised in homes seeing such behavior as their model. We speak about domestic violence each October because we know it is a difficult thing to consider. In your places of worship, on your streets, in your group of friends, there may be someone who's being abused. He or she may not even know this is the case, as many survivors of emotional abuse will later describe. We are thankful for the support of this work by the MAG Regional Domestic Violence Council, and previously this month by MAG's Management Committee voting to approve the annual proclamation that October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Today, we are here for your support as well. Next slide. Next slide.
The previous slide was an example of our staff this year dressed in purple in support of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And once again, our thanks to all of you who wore purple today and who participated in the photo, both in the room and online. We really appreciate it. Each year, MAG helps coordinate regional activities related to raising awareness about domestic violence. This year, we asked for support and development of a calendar of events, and many of you participated with our thanks. We encourage you to continue to send us information about any events you may still have planned for this month. And the submission form is available on our website. We're also available to provide any technical assistance and support for your events as well. And we welcome any questions or help that you may need. We also invite you to light your buildings purple. We would be happy to post any photos you can share. And again, several of you have sent in photos, which we'd like to showcase next. Next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Julia?
The number of those who face emotional abuse is staggering. This abuse could include name calling, code shuttering, gradual isolation, damage to property, stalking, coercive sex, body shaming, financial abuse, and more.
Next slide. The good news is we know how to help survivors of emotional abuse and to identify protective factors within our community. Promoting opportunities in your community where individuals can connect with existing medical, behavioral health, housing, and financial services can help families. Next slide, please.
We have two groups within the Domestic Violence Council. The one is Teen Dating Violence Work Group, and its goal is to help prevent teen dating violence. We're working with local stakeholders and schools to try to not only teach students about what emotional abuse looks like, but to prevent it from happening. The Workforce Development Work Group is helping to develop and encourage others to join in this fight. We welcome your support of this work and are thankful for the many representatives from your cities who serve on the Regional Domestic Violence Council.
Next slide, please. This item is for action to recommend approval of the resolution honoring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. The resolution is available within the materials for today's meeting. We're available for questions about the resolution or any other parts of the presentation. Thank you for your support. This concludes our presentation.
Kelly, Councilmember Norton, thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee in the room? Any comments? Anyone on Zoom who has a comment? Many years ago, Evandale does a Shop with a Cop event every December. And it's children that our police department interact with. And almost every case is some type of abuse. And I usually bring one of my daughters with me, or I'll bring my wife with me to go do that. And one year, this is probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, there were 2 girls who were part of the police officer that I was walking with. And my wife was with us. And I always kind of ask the police officer, kind of tell me what you can tell me without violating anything. And the 2 girls we were with were very, very nice, sweet girls. They had watched their mother get beaten and then shot by her boyfriend. They actually hid in a closet and looked through the slats and saw it happen. And when we talk about this, we talk about the impact. I thought to myself, at that moment in time when we're doing the shopping with the little girls, they seem fine. But what trauma are they going to have for the rest of their lives? And it's just one of those things that we never know. So thank you very much for everything that you've done here with your group and everyone who was able to support this. And it was great seeing all the city halls and all the buildings and the Gilbert water tower lit up. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion on this item, please?
Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Dickey, a second from Mayor Peterson. All those in the room, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Andrew, would you mind doing a roll call online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'll go down the list of members participating virtually. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Vice Mayor Brown?
I vote yes.
Thank you. Mayor Emercio?
Yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Hickman?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor LaVault?
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Molina?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Pereira.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Riggs. Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Walter.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you very much. Item number 7 is the second project deferral request, Town of Gila Bend. Gila Bend Unified School District Walkable, Bikeable Perimeter. This will be presented by Transportation Improvement Program Supervisor Patrick Stone and guest speaker Dick Wallace. How are you again?
Thank you, Chair, members of the Council. Good afternoon. This is the second deferral request for the Town of Gila Bend. Before I turn it over to town staff, I wanted to real quick take a moment, reorient the council on the importance of deferral actions. As you know, the region operates our federal funds on a use or lose basis. When we defer projects, we have to reallocate those funds in the year that they're programmed. So it is important that we know about deferrals and that we take appropriate action. Second, the member agency is required to identify what has caused the deferral and the steps the town has taken in this case to mitigate those effects, and also to reiterate the town's commitment to this project, both from a schedule and financial perspective. And with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Kathy Valenzuela and Mr. Dick Wallace with the Town of Gila Bend.
Hello, hello, Chair Weiss and members of the MAG Regional Council. Thank you for this opportunity to present for your consideration our second deferral request. Next slide, please. So this is the location of our new school. Next slide, please. So you can see it there. So it's located just about a mile north of Pima Street, which is our main thoroughfare, and about half a mile away from San Lucie, the district of the Tohono O'odham Nation. Next slide, please. So part of the reason for this deferral request is that the school actually did pass a bond. When this project was initially conceived, the new orientation of the school was not conceived. There had been a bond proposal previously attempted that did not pass. This one, thank goodness, did pass because the old school was in need of, just of demolition and a new school completely built, which was great, but it did impact our points of entry and drop-off locations. So the new school is highlighted in blue. Next slide, please. Again, the importance of this is that currently there are no sidewalks going to or from the school, so that makes walking and biking unsafe. The other thing is that we definitely want to have a focus on improved physical activity for our students, and so being able to provide these walkways and bike paths are of utmost importance. Next slide, please. So for this piece, I will defer to Town Engineer Dick Wallace.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Wallace?
Kathy. We currently have a MAG Safe Routes to School study underway that's evaluating the infrastructure needs around the school. This study is scheduled to be completed in December of this year, and it will provide us a better idea of what and where the greatest needs are, which will then be used to develop our design scope for this project. This slide just shows some of the typical recommendations we expect to see from the study. They can range from sidewalks or multi-use paths to designated bike paths with some landscaping features where feasible. Kathy.
Okay. Thank you, Dick. Next slide, please. So part of the reason for the deferral request was obviously the pandemic was because of our first one. And then the second one was, again, pandemic related in that student attendance was virtual. So we were not able to do the Safe Routes to School study, and we really wanted to get that completed so that we're making informed decisions to be sure that we're capturing, the real behavior of the students based on the new school design and orientation. Next slide, please. So we do have funds available in our capital improvement plan, and so we are requesting to move design to fiscal year 24 and to move construction to fiscal year 25. Next slide, please. So looking at this new project schedule, it allows us ample opportunity to meet these deadlines and initiate the project with ADOT and do all of the steps outlined in this. So we're able to be confident not only in our design schedule, but in our construction schedule as well. Next slide, please. Thank you for your consideration of this request. And I do want to comment that Mayor Riggs just texted that he is on the line, but and he's been answering. So I'm not sure what the issue is there, but just wanted to share that. So anyway, thank you for your consideration of this request and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any members have comments on this? Any questions? Mayor Riggs, did you have anything you wanted to say about this?
No, sir. I think Kathy pretty much got it.
Thank you.
And I apologize. It was a glitch on my.
No worries, sir. Did you want to make the motion on this item?
Yes, sir. I'd like to make the motion that we approve this item.
I have a motion from Mayor Riggs. Is there a second? I have a second from Mayor Peterson. All those in favor in the room say aye. Aye. Andrea, would you mind online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. I will go through the list of members participating virtually. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Vice Mayor Brown.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Mayor Emercio.
Aye.
Thank you. Supervisor Hickman.
Aye.
Thank you. Mayor LaVault.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Molina.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Pereira.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Riggs.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Rodriguez. Vice Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Walter.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you. And I'll circle back. Mayor Rodriguez.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that I missed? Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Congratulations to Gila Bend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all so much.
Item number 8 is draft MAG policy principles. Sapna will be presenting this. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair and members of the Regional Council, the MAG policy principles present the agency's policy approaches for wide ranges of its activities and ranging from specific legislative items to the broader roles and responsibilities for the agency. Next slide, please. We review and revise this brochure annually. If there is a development that occurs during the course of the year, we have these policy principles to refer to. In this year's update, we have kept the investment plan and the graphic that shows the connection between infrastructure and employment in the region. Next slide, please. This slide shows where the updates have been made, and I will go over them in more detail. The major underlying policies themselves have not changed. The updates and the edits clarify and describe these policies and principles a little bit better. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we've updated and edited the policy principles in several sections. Next slide, please. For transportation, we have changed the order of the bullets to reflect the importance of transportation funding and placing the extension of Prop 400 in front of voters as soon as possible. Next slide, please. For the economic development section, we have added a bullet to reflect the importance of spreading the word about infrastructure investments in the region, as you can see in the first bullet here. And we also received feedback at the Economic Development Committee earlier this month on adding language on alternatively fueled vehicles, which we have done, as you can see in the second bullet here. Next slide, please. In the environmental section, we have clarified the language further in a couple of the bullets, and we have added a reference to natural resources in the first bullet in this slide to incorporate feedback also from the Economic Development Committee earlier this month. Next slide, please. So we've added wording in two sections, regional analytics and human services, to better reflect the breadth of the work they do. As Eric had mentioned earlier, there's a new tab on the MAG website on housing that Anubhav Bagley had presented to you last month. So we've added language on that. And in human services, we've added the quote unquote with related housing activities to better reflect the work that they do. And this work has been part of the Pathways Home Regional Plan of Homelessness that was approved last year. Next slide, please. So the policy principles were presented to the MAG policy committees earlier this month, and they're on the agenda today for action. Mr. Chair and members of the Regional Council, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you for that. Is anybody in the room who has a question or comments on this? Anyone online? Seeing and hearing none, can I get a motion, please?
Moved.
I have a motion from the mayor of the great town of Gilbert, a second from the mayor of the great city of Chandler. Gilbert suburb, that's awesome. For those in the room, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Andrew, would you go online, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'll go down the list of members participating virtually. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Vice Mayor Brown.
Jeff Brown, representing the great town of Queen Creek, votes yes.
Thank you. Mayor Ambrosio.
Yes.
Thank you. Supervisor Hickman.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor LaVault.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Molina. Mayor Molina. Mayor Pereira.
From the great western town of Wickenburg, I vote yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Riggs.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Walter.
Yes.
Thank you. Mayor Wilson.
Yes.
Thank you. Can I check back with Mayor Molina?
Yes. Sorry, technical difficulties.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that I missed? Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
So do you all remember at Arizona League of Cities and Towns when we do the cavalcade of cities, the flag?
Yes.
Who's ever doing it, they'll do their comment about the great city, blah, 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 blah. Okay. I think we should do that here every time now.
There's too many of us.
The meeting will take 3.5 hours. Item number 9 is the scary talk from John Bullen and Arminta. There's honestly there's really no better way of expressing that, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Regional Council. Appreciate you setting the stage for this presentation. Do my best to deliver. Next slide, please. So just real quick, start off today's presentation with a brief overview, really focusing on our region and the role transportation has played. I will follow that up by turning the keys over to Arminta Saeed, who led our economic analysis. She'll walk through those results, and then we'll finally conclude with some key takeaways from today. Next slide, please. Next slide. Really the transportation network that we have here today, you can trace back to the investments that we've made since 1985. Before Proposition 300, we had I-17, we had parts of I-10, and we had parts of US 60. Thanks to Proposition 300 and Proposition 400, we now have the Loop 101, the Loop 202, the Loop 303, State Route 51, State Route 143, high capacity transit system, have built hundreds of miles of new arterial roads and support more than 7.5 million revenue miles of bus transit service every year. Next slide, please. And those investments have paid off. They have really led to the explosive growth, both in population and jobs that we've seen since 1985. Next slide, please. They have resulted in significant savings for people and businesses. They have driven our property values up, and they have made our region a great place to be. Next slide, please. Those investments get put front and center when our economic development agencies go and attract new businesses to locate here. There's a direct correlation between where those businesses locate and access to transportation infrastructure. This map does a great job of demonstrating that relationship. Next slide, please. One of the reasons why they locate next to our transportation infrastructure is because of the competitive advantage that it gives. The map on the screen shows data from Texas A&M Transportation Institute's annual mobility report. You look at last year's report, you look at the last 10 years report, and you'll see the same thing. The report consistently shows that our region has lower travel times, has lower levels of congestion, and has more reliable travel than any of our peers across the country. Simply put, our system consistently ranks the best. Next slide, please. What's particularly surprising is that we've We rank so high despite our relative levels of investment. One of the first tasks that we undertook as part of the development of the new RTP was to do a peer region analysis. How does our region stack up funding against those regions that are similar to us and those regions that we compete for jobs for? Next slide, please. And what you'll see is that we're outpaced. Keep in mind that this data is roughly 3 years old, but it still tells the story. We are outpaced with the 0.5-cent sales tax. Without it, the story gets even worse. Do keep in mind that the peer agency that we were most similar to at the time, Austin, Texas, which is at the far end, since then has passed a dedicated transit tax to expand their light rail system. The disparity is even greater today. Next slide, please. However, we've been able to stay competitive because we've done a good job of staying in front of the growth. We've done a great job of making strategic investments. Our plan continues those investments. With our plan, we will remain a competitive market. We will have low travel times. We will save people the time that they want, give people more time at home with their families. However, we wanted to better understand the link between transportation investments and the economy. Next slide, please. And to that end, the MAG Regional Council Executive Committee approved funding to conduct comprehensive economic analysis in early August. Since then, a team has been working around the clock to deliver these results. We know they are of the utmost importance. This is work that normally takes 6 months to a year. It has been done in 2 months. So very happy today to walk through those results. And with that, I will turn it over to Armenta.
Thanks, John. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So we began this analysis by partnering with a firm called EBP US Inc., who is nationally recognized for conducting this type of work in the field. The methodology that we used for this analysis was we compared differences in travel behaviors between 2 scenarios, one scenario that included investments funded through the extension plan and one scenario that didn't. From there, we were able to take the differences in travel characteristics and compute the total impact on the region and the economy. Next slide, please. So before I get into the findings, here's a quick snapshot of what was actually included in this analysis, both from an input and output point of view. One thing to take away here is that this analysis only included projects that we were able to model. There is also billions set aside for programs we weren't able to model. So as I'm going through the findings, just note that they're not actually capturing the full benefits, even though they're significant. Next slide, please. So to get into the findings, first of all, from a travel perspective, we find that implementing the investment plan will create a decrease in congestion across all travel modes and trip purposes. Complementing that nicely was an increase in speeds across all travel modes, on average about 1 to 2 miles per hour, which is significant at an aggregate level like this. And then we also saw an increase in transit trips of over 100,000 trips every single year. When we quantify the impact of that on the region as a whole over the full 25-year period, we estimate that it's about a $73 billion benefit to the region. Of that, $40 billion is savings to our local businesses in terms of their travel time and increased travel reliability, and $4.4 billion is savings in terms of their freight and logistics costs. Next slide, please. But the really significant piece of the impact comes from when those savings are reinvested back into the economy, which makes the economy and the region grow and become that much more competitive. Next slide, please. And so by reinvesting that $73 billion benefit back into this region's economy, we see that total net new business sales will increase by $113 billion. Of that, the gross regional product is about, it totals $60 billion. Income growth totals about $40 billion over the full 25-year period. And then 31,600 net new jobs are added every single year. Next slide, please. In addition, our analysis also found some benefits that are specific to the growth that this region is currently facing. Next slide, please. So what I mean by that is certain industries will benefit more from our investment plan than others. So if you take, for example, a semiconductor manufacturing facility, because of their reliance on truck traffic for their operations, they'll benefit more from freight corridor improvements that we have included in our plan than other industries. Next slide, please. And so when we look at the breakdown of which industries are the most reliant on these roadway and transit operations, what we found is it's already those industries that are our largest GDP contributors. Next slide, please. And so if you break down that overall economic impact that I was just stating to you, we find that it's exactly those industries that are benefiting the most. And what's really interesting is the impact it has not only on job growth, but job quality. So 71% of those net new jobs every single year fall between median to high wage thresholds, and they all fall in growing occupations. Next slide, please. But in order to remain competitive as these industries and jobs grow, we also need to continue to provide good accessibility to these jobs. And so 87% of the projects included in the investment plan do help to enhance access to these regional job centers. Next slide, please. And then along the same lines, our investment plan also helps to create or improve access to about 87,000 acres of developable land, which is a significant benefit as new investments become more interested in this region. Next slide, please. And then the added bonus benefit there is that property values will also increase as these infrastructure investments come in. And so when you consider the fact that 2/3 of those developable land acres, are owned by the Arizona State Land Department, that's another direct return to the state as a result of implementing this investment plan, specifically about $69 million. And that concludes the overall summary, and I'll turn it back to John at this point.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So today's presentation was really an abbreviated version. While we talked through some of the economic impacts, there is certainly a timing component associated with all of this. There was a method to our madness as we developed the extension schedule. We had hoped to go to voters next month. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of development activities that need to take place. Transportation projects do not happen overnight. And it's important that we get that underway, particularly if we want to continue to support our growing economy. However, the link between transportation investments and economic development is indisputable. We see it time and time again, and it's important that we continue to invest. If we don't make those investments, if Maricopa County voters are unable to determine their future, really we're going to see an impact on our economy. Local business sales will hurt. The cost of doing business here in our region will increase. And we're going to lose jobs. We're going to lose jobs to those regions that we compete so hard for. And really those thriving industries that we have now that we fought so hard to get will suffer. Moreover, as I had just mentioned, timing is critical. We're on the clock. We need to get this in front of voters as quickly as possible. And every day counts. So with that, Mr. Chair, that completes our presentation. We'd be happy to answer any questions.
Both of you, thank you very much. For me, it's amazing when we talk about, and this plan is so much more in depth. We've seen other parts of this plan and the numbers that have been drilled down. The fact that you got it done in how long? 60 days?
Correct.
So this is the framework for what we'll be going out to the community with. We've already had those meetings. And if anybody has questions on kind of where that process is at, please feel free to reach out to me after the meeting. But we have started the Jack and Ken Roadshow. And Chairman Sellers is a diehard advocate, and his knowledge is incredible. But we've started those discussions, and as we progress on those, we'll keep everyone kind of updated on that. Eric, did you have any comments on this before I go to the membership?
Mr. Chair, I do not. Thank you.
Anybody in the room, any comments? Ma'am?
So what's the plan? I love this, by the way. This is fantastic. This is foundationally, I think, critically important. Well done. Cannot say enough good things about. And the way that you have explained it means that it's applicable to every single corner of our region, but also thanks to, I think, some of the work that was done at the League Conference, it has been made clear to the rest of the state what's at risk if this does not move forward. So I guess after all of that being said, because I should have started with that, now what's the plan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Regional Council. I think, suffice to say our challenge now and, really one of the big struggles with the veto is that our path is less certain. And so what we do know now is that we need to get the message out. We need to get our stakeholders engaged. We need to get the business community engaged. I think, Chairman Weiss, Chairman Sellers have done a phenomenal job of starting to get them engaged. And so, certainly we need to see the results of the election, how that plays out. That certainly will factor into some of our next steps. But I think suffice to say, and I'll turn it over to the chair, under Chairman Weiss's leadership and Chairman Sellers, they've done a fantastic job getting the business folks engaged.
So I think the part that was missing from Prop 400 before was I think that the business community felt like they weren't fully engaged, that we didn't go out and talk to them. Now, whether that perception is true or not, I don't know. We've had meetings with the business community, different meetings on those, and they're obviously they're very supportive of what we're trying to do here. I think when we look at this project, and I said it last week, I think at TPC we call this a transportation plan, but the truth is it's a quality of life plan. It's an economic development plan. And I think that's how we have to sell it. We don't know what's going to happen over the next 3 months with everything that's going on. But we continue to work those backdoor channels. If those channels don't work, then for us, it's an education plan going out to the public. And we'll know more after the elections happen. We'll know who's going to be in leadership and what this path looks like going forward next year. What I've said to the West Valley mayors, and I think I've said to other East Valley mayors, is this becomes more difficult for us in 23. And the reason it becomes more difficult for us is because depending on how the legislature turns and how leadership changes, cities are going to fight for their lives when it comes to rental sales tax and TPT and model city tax code and food and everything else. Prop 400E may be the least of our problems. But the truth is we have to keep our eye on the ball and the focus on that. And I think what we've done here is a way to educate the public. The people who supported us in the legislature still support us. They do. We just have to make sure that the pressure is always there. And we can't do this alone. We've got to have the business community involved. We've got to have the education community involved. All those stakeholders have to be involved. So that's kind of to answer your question. From a 30,000 foot view, without going into a lot of detail, that's kind of what we're doing now.
This is likely to be the largest freshman class that the legislature time, which makes the job even harder. Just the foundational education that will have to occur just from how something goes from idea to bill to law. But also the burden, I think, is on us to help them educate why. And so I would urge us not to wait until the election. We need to be having these conversations with legislators that we know are safe, but also building relationships with candidates, with individuals like this. Everything will become relational at the legislature for the foreseeable future because of the lack of experience of the process. And so I don't, and I sort of am looking at Nathan through microphones here, the need that we have for relationships has never been greater. And I want to make sure we have a plan that relates to that.
And I would agree. And I would agree with that. I would also tell you that not everyone's a salesman, right? Not every mayor is comfortable going out and knocking on their legislators' doors to push a project, to push this. Not every legislator is friendly with the towns that they represent. They may not be. So I think where that relationship comes in, Jen, is I think that relationship starts with the people who we know who are going to get reelected, who have supported this project before. And even those people who may not have gotten reelected, and I'm going to throw out a name, Rusty Bowers. I've had conversations with Rusty Bowers. I got to meet with Rusty Bowers last Monday at an event with the German mission out of DC. And he's on board with this plan. Rusty has a lot of support and a lot of people respect him. And I think that does transition to new legislators who know him and know of his reputation. Not fully West Valley and everywhere else, but I think there's people out there who are like that. I can look at Joanne Osborne. I can look at Lorenzo Sierra. I can look at people who may not be in the legislature next year, but still have a reputation and still have a voice that they want to share. Again, I'm looking at intergovs. That relationship also, in a lot of cases, that education process starts with the intergovs, because for lack of a better term, they are the salespeople for the city. They are the lobbyists for the city, and it's their job to build those relationships. I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now on what happens with the election. So would I tell you that we're waiting until after the election to have things happen? Absolutely not. We're laying the groundwork for what happens after the election. Right now, there's a lot of unknowns, so it's difficult to navigate all that. But I think we're doing as best of a job as we can, right? And Nathan, if you can touch on that too, as part, it may not be part of your legislative update, but just kind of touch on that a little bit, how that looks to you. Ginny?
Mayor, thank you. Another one of the million ripple effects of this is some of the timing of, you mentioned education and also localities on going out for our own things, bonds, overrides at school districts, road bonds and other things that we might be looking at that we, thought, okay, here's Prop 400 now, so let's wait before we do X, Y, Z. And now all this uncertainty is, you might have had, a unanimous council or school board in favor of this, but now if it ends up coming on the same November that they're asking for, a school bond, it can erode it a little bit.
And I think what we've talked about before is that, again, I don't want to get into a lot of details, but I think there's some paths that are easier than other paths. And if we do have to go to election, we're looking at probably sometime next year would be our hope. If we get to 24, we're going to start from behind the 8 ball. We really are. So I think, again, for me, this education process, yes, is for legislators, but it's also for the public. And we're working on that also. The easiest way to get legislators on your side is to have the public on your side. Will now put pressure on them. If not always the case, but in many cases it is. Anyone online who's got any comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Supervisor Hickman.
When I was hearing your guys' rundown about all these great cities and stuff, I'm representing the largest population base. just want to let you know that. My thought is on this as we're going forward, and because I'm hearing stories with this new freshman class, we need to train ourselves out of some words and use different terms. And I think we need to start training ourselves to stop using the word educate and lobby. I think that's becoming a buzzword of instantaneous, just throwing in their mind frame that they get extremely defensive. So I think we just need to keep walking in and say, we're here to share information in support of or something. Because I've been hearing these horrible stories with these new freshmen that once they hear the word educate or lobby, they're instantaneously shutting everybody down. So we need to think about that as we talk to these new legislators.
Clint, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And again, it's going to be a learning curve for all of us as we go forward. Eric, how many districts do you have in your city now? Legislative districts? You're mainly one. Who's got more than one? How many do you have? 2. Kevin? So I think it's hard, and not everyone has a relationship with their people. In Avondale, we've been lucky. We've had the same 3 for however how many years. We have great relationships, but that doesn't always exist. So again, I think it's going to be up to the intergovs to, and Clint, whatever term we'll come up with, but how we share the information that we need to with them and get that word out. So, all right. Everyone, thank you for that. This was just for information.
Thank you.
Nathan? Nathan, you always follow the scary story.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Regional Council. We did not have this legislative update scheduled to be heard today, in part because knowing this previous presentation, there'd be a lot of conversation around it. But suffice to say that a lot of the points have been covered in the conversation with the previous agenda item. We are working hard, diligently with member agencies, intergovs, as you pointed out, Mr. Chairman, contract lobbyists, and others. There's a lot of moving parts behind the scenes that I'm not comfortable sharing in a public setting. but please recognize that we are working hard. I encourage members to contact MAG staff if you do have any questions or any updates needed.
Nathan, will you be available after the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any future agenda items? Anyone? Any comments from the committee? I will take a chairman's point of pride. Last council meeting, the city of Avondale kicked off its new We Ride microtransit system. For those of you familiar, we had a system called Zoom that started probably 10 years ago, and it served the entire city. We have now taken Zoom. It wasn't getting a lot of use in the northern part of the city, north of I-10. So we've taken Zoom and made it a free service in the southern part of our city, and have contracted with a company to do an Uber/Lyft type transit system in our city, over 250 pickup points in the northern part of the city. So it's a $2 ride for wherever you want to go in the city. And I think that's pretty incredible for a city of our size. So we looked at what Chandler did, the successes and the learning curve. Yep, and did what we had to do. So I think we're only the second city in the state to have done that. So anyone else? If not, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone online.
Thank you.